Greetings and welcome back to my channel, travelers. How are you doing? So in this video, and in the subsequent video series, we're going to talk about the heroes of Dragonlance. It could be, like in this case, talking about Tika Majere, a hero of the lands, or talking about other heroes and villains throughout the entire history of Dragonlance. So let's dive deep into Tika Majere. Tika was born to a barmaid and an illusionist and a thief who promptly disappeared on her and her mother. I don't think that he even knew that he had a daughter, or he didn't even care. And like all the other kids in Sola, she was extremely adept at climbing. She even took up a bit of thievery while she was young until the law actually caught up with her. But then, Otik Sandeth, the owner of the Inn of the Last Home, took her in and adopted her as his own, teaching her the skills of being an inn runner, barmaid, and chef. Tika began to work for Otik at the year 340 AC, at the age of 14. At that age, she was fascinated by magic and admired Rislin for his abilities in the skill. And though she admired Rislin, she had a total crush on Kairamon and always flirted with him. When the companions returned to the inn after 5 years of travel, it was Tika who told them to go out back through the kitchen, thus escaping the High Seeker Hedrick. And from there, she told them to hide in her own home in Solas until things blew over. And after the companions left, Solas was invaded by the Red Dragon army and the inn was knocked down to ground level. Tika continued her work as a barmaid, selling to the Draconians and soldiers who frequented the inn. And when the companions finally returned to Solas and were about to get arrested yet again, she hit the Draconians over the head with a frying pan to stop them from capturing her friends. Eventually, the forces of the Red Dragon army surrounded Tika and the companions and took them all into prison, together with Theros Ironfell, who lost his arm as punishment. After their capture, they were sent out to Paxaros to be used as slaves in the mines. Along the way, the elves attacked the caravan and freed them. After that, she tagged along with the companions to the city of Quolonesti, and from there they planned their attack on Paxtaros to save the slaves. And while in the city, she was given the ceremonial armor of Gilthanas' mother to wear. Tika wasn't an adept fighter, to say the least. She did know how to swing a skillet, but a sword wasn't really her forte. Kairamon did teach her along the way how to fight, and along the way she became a fairly fierce warrior. She joined the group on their way to Tarsis, and there she was attacked in the Red Dragon Inn, and found herself trapped there with Kairamon Rislin, Goldmoon, Riverwind, and Tanis, where they were freed by Alahana, Starbreeze, and her griffins. From there they were taken to Sylvanesti to assist saving the elves. After their escape from Tarsis, they entered the forest of Sylvanesti, the ancestral home of the elves, and there they met Lorok's nightmare. And in her dream she attacked undead elves that were coming at her in swarms, and she carelessly swung her sword, by accident killing Flit Fireforge. She stared down in horror at what she has done, and she was cut down by the undead elves. She only woke up to find that the companions finally defeated the dream, and she stayed with the group through Balafor and Flotsam. She worked as a dancer in their troupe, called the Red Wizard and his Wonderful Illusions, and made quite a few men fall in love with her. After their stay in Flotsam, the companions boarded a ship to escape the dragon armies, and while sailing away from the city, trying to escape the Blue Dragon Sky and his master Kitiara, they sailed far too close to the maelstrom of the Blood Sea and got caught in the whirlpool. And Tika and her friends were all carried into the depths. She finally woke up to find herself alone in a room with Kairamon, and she wanted to stay under the ocean until the end of her days. This is the first time where both of them actually spent more time together as a couple. And if I remember correctly, this is the time where they admitted that they loved each other. Now they stayed together after that and were sent to the shores of Kalaman. There she helped out with the war efforts. In the final stages of the war, Tika found herself with the group in Naraka trying to save Laurana from the evil dragon army leader, where Laurana was supposed to be sacrificed in front of Takisis, helping usher her into the world. Tika, Tess, and Berem were acting as prisoners, where Caramon and Tanis were wearing uniforms of the dragon armies. They managed to fool the soldiers and get into the dungeons, and when all hell broke loose, Tika and Tess tried to run for the exit down a long corridor. They managed to make it, where Tika was holding off the Draconians and the guards, and Tess was working on the locked door, beating almost one for one the nightmare. It ended with Tika taking one hard swing to her head, going unconscious, but thankfully being saved by Caramon and Rislin, who arrived just in time to save Tess's life, who was poisoned by a small little dart in the lock. Together they were ushered out of the temple just before it exploded, and the city of Naraka almost got destroyed. After the war, Tika and Caramon got married and moved back to Solas. She watched her husband help rebuild Solas with a passion, but he also started to slip into depression because Rislin left them. He started drinking more and more, while she took on managing the inn and trying to save enough money to buy the inn of the last home. Caramon did not help at that point. He was a drunk, using whatever little money they made to spend on ale instead of helping her pay the bills. Eventually, she kicked Caramon out of the house and sent him away after Christiana with Tess, hoping that together on the road again he could find purpose and a reason to live. Caramon came back after the Blue Ladies' War. He came back a brand new man, no longer dependent on alcohol, and no longer depressed. It's like he was a brand new man, and together their love blossomed, and she gave birth to 3 sons, Tanin, Strom, and Palin, and 2 daughters, Laura and Desra. She noticed that Tanin and Storm were natural with weapons, but she was very worried about Palin, who showed interest in magic just like his uncle Rislin. She did tell Palin that if he wants to follow wizardry, he has to promise to be a white mage and not go near the red or black robes. Now during this time, she finally had enough money to buy the Inn of the Last Home. Otik was growing old and was more than happy to sell it to her and Caramon. And there they lived as a family until Tanin and Storm went off to join the Knights of Solamnia, and Palin accompanied them as a war wizard. Sadly, during the Chaos War, both of her sons, Tanin and Storm, were killed in the first incursion on the beach, and this broke her heart. He was the one who broke the news, and he was a prisoner of the Dark Knights, so essentially all 3 of her sons were taken from her. She did assist in the defense of Solas from the Dark Knights and then from Chaos Forces, and she was thankful when Palin was finally released and came back home to her. After that, when the Heroes of the Heart were in their greatest need, Tika and Caramon traveled to Palantes from the Inn of the Last Home to deliver a part of the ancient Dragonlance to Damon Grimwolf. She was Caramon's voice of reason when Palanthas was attacked, and convinced him to stay behind and protect her instead of rushing out into battle. Tika passed away of old age and was joined months later by her husband Caramon. She was laid to rest next to her sons Tanin and Storm, and a Valewood tree was planted on her grave. And she was 88 years old when she passed away. Tika lived a long and tumultuous life, from when she was a small girl up until her death. She always did it her way. She left a legacy behind her that will never be forgotten, of the lonely barmaid who turned savior of the world. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Have a lovely day.